Hey there, it's Zach from Engadget, and what we have here is the Sony NEX-7. Now this is Sony's new flagship mirrorless camera. The NEX series consists of the NEX-C3, which is available starting at $549 with the lens, the NEX-5N, which is a little bit more expensive but adds 1080p shooting, and then we have all the way at the high end, priced at $1,200 without the lens, the Sony NEX-7. So this camera we first got to take a look at back in September. We had a few days to spend with it then, but shipping was delayed by quite a few months. It missed the holiday season, obviously, entirely because of the flooding in Thailand. And so Sony has finally been able to ramp up production of these and start shipping. And so you should be able to order and purchase an NEX-7 sometime within the next few weeks. It's been out in Japan for a few weeks, and they've started to ship to some customers in the US as well. And so I'll give you a walk around of the camera. It's very compact, and the camera feels very natural. It doesn't feel too big, too small, and it looks like a good fit with this. This is the 24mm f1.8 Zeiss lens, and so this lens itself is $9.99. You can also purchase the camera in a kit with the 18 to 55mm standard zoom lens that ships with the NEX-C3 and NEX-5N. Although this version is black to match the camera body, the magnesium alloy body of the NEX-7. And so I have this Zeiss lens on here. I'm going to power it up, and like I was saying, the camera it's very small. It has an APS-C sensor, 24.3 megapixels. So it's actually the same size sensor that you'll find in the Sony Alpha A77, which is Sony's flagship full-size digital SLR. And so it's an identical sensor. I'm going to pop off the lens so that you can take a look. And so there's the sensor right there. It is larger than Micro Four Thirds, but smaller than a full-frame sensor that you'll find in cameras like the Nikon D700 and the Canon 5D Mark II. And so I'm going to pull over some other Sony cameras, some other NEX cameras to demonstrate the size. Over here on the left we have the Sony NEX-5N, and then up front here is the NEX-C3. And so this is the smallest of the three cameras. I'll put them side by side so that you can take a look. We have the NEX-7 over here, NEX-C3 right there in the middle, and this is the 5N. And so if you're looking for the most compact camera, it's obviously not going to be the NEX-7. It is the largest of the three. The reason it's so large, though, and relatively large, is because, first of all, we have a full-size hot shoe up top, we have a built-in flash, and then we have this, what Sony is calling a tri-navi interface. And so there's two dials up top, and the same dial in the rear that we have with the NEX-C3 and the NEX-5N. And so between these three dials we have the tri-navi interface. Depending on the mode that the camera is in, this is your primary dial. So if right now we're in aperture priority, so we don't have a lens on right now, I'm going to pop on this Zeiss lens just so that we can take a closer look at how the interface works. But in aperture priority mode, this left dial controls the aperture, and then we have a nice readout right there on the bottom. The right dial is exposure compensation in this mode specifically. So we can turn this dial, and there are many stops of exposure compensation, all the way up to 5 stops. So I'm going to go back on down to 0. And you can change the aperture, shutter speed, and exposure compensation along with ISO while recording a video. And so we can also adjust the ISO directly by turning this ring on the back. So for in manual mode, the left dial controls the aperture, right one controls the shutter speed, and this back one controls the ISO. And so you can actually change all of the settings in the camera, the shooting settings rather, just by turning these dials rather than poking through menus. We do have access directly to shooting mode, so there's a speed priority continuous mode that actually fires off 10 frames per second. And so that's really in line with many full-size DSLRs. There's really no reason you couldn't shoot a sporting event with this. You can even pair it with full-size alpha lenses. And so I'm going to go back to the single shooting mode. There's also a slower continuous shooting mode that captures about 3 frames per second, and this one actually adjusts the focus and the exposure. So in that full 10 frame per second shooting mode, it fixes focus and exposure with the first image. And so once again, I'm going to go back up to single shooting. There's also remote shooting available as well, a bracketing mode, 2 self-timer modes as well. So back to single shooting. Okay, then we have another way to access exposure compensation down here. There is a display button. And so with the display we have a few different options. This one's kind of cool. This is a level. And so as we turn the camera, it shows us when it's level, so when we have level shooting. And we can also do that vertically as well. And so it's green when you're level, just so you can have an idea of how the camera is positioned. And then up top, like I said, we have display, and then we can hit display again and we get a histogram down there. Okay, then the main system menu looks very similar to the menu that has been included on NEX cameras since the beginning, since the NEX-3 and NEX-5. And so we have direct access to the shooting modes there. We're going to go back to aperture priority. And then we also have a camera settings menu. And as you can see here, the camera icon actually looks just like the NEX-7. And so it's a little bit more generic on the other models. We have image size, brightness, color, which is also where you can adjust ISO, playback menu, and setup. And setup is where you go to turn off the beep, to switch between the EVF and the built-in LCD, and also to format the memory card. So continuing the walk around, like I said, we have an EVF electronic viewfinder on the top with a removable eye cup, and so that definitely reduces the profile of the camera. There is a full-size hot shoe up top, a built-in flash, as you can see right there. Then we have the Tri-Navi interface, and this up top, right next to the power slider and shutter release, is a shift button. So if we press this, it'll actually cycle through different modes that we can use the Tri-Navi interface for. On the right side of the camera, we just have a grip, so there's no memory card slot or ports over here. On the bottom, this is where the power, the battery compartment is. We also have an SD. It's a combination SD and memory stick slot in the back. We have a tripod connector there. Then on the left side, we have, now this is unique for an NEX camera. One thing that many people have been asking for is a microphone input. And so this captures 1080 60p video, and now you can bring in your own sound as well. And so the other port compartment right here, we have a mini USB port and an HDMI port. And these doors they're plastic, but they're very solid feeling, so you can open and close these many times without worrying that they'll break off. As you can see, the LCD is flush with the back of the camera, but you can actually pop it out, and so it is articulating just like it is on the other Sony NEX cameras. And so we can flip it up like that to get lower shooting, or you can turn it like that and then shoot from above. And so you can actually hold the camera above you and still have a very clear view of the LCD. And as far as the physical design of the camera, that's about it. We also have a dedicated video capture button here, and so you can hit that and you are in video record mode. The camera can adjust pretty quickly with focusing while recording video. So it can shift between the focus and exposure. It's a gradual shift, so you don't really have to worry too much about the camera focus hunting, because it's not going to shift immediately. It takes a second or two to change the focus or exposure. And I'm going to turn that off there. The built-in flash, as you can see, comes up. So the idea is that it's going to go beyond the edge of whatever lens you have on the camera, and in general that works pretty well. The camera can shoot at up to ISO 25,600, and so you're probably not going to need to use the flash very much. It's a bit harsh, just like any direct flash would be. You can also position it in a few different ways. You can point it up to the ceiling, although it's not a very powerful flash, so unless you're in a very small room, you're not going to really get much light out of it by pointing it at the ceiling. And I'll give you one more quick look around the camera. And again, this is the Sony NEX-7.